Good afternoon. It is November 20th, 2023. You're listening to A Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Limos and hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? I am doing amazing. This is my favorite time of the year. I was trying to think it through. It's like, is it March? March is awesome. That first weekend, you have the Super Bowl in February. You got the finals in June. But this time of year, a lot of people, they don't like it. The time changes. It gets dark at 3:30 here in the Northeast. But you can watch so many sports. It's almost a little overwhelming. I had Duke and the C's playing on Friday night, pretty much at the same time. So, doubled up on that. Then Saturday, I go over to the casino. I watch a doubleheader college basketball game. I come home. I watch some college football to, wrap that day up. And then Sunday, you got a full day of football, and I was even able to sneak a little more college basketball in. It's not just one day or even one weekend. There's this whole stretch here. And especially right now, work, it's a short week. A lot of people are already on vacation. Feast week is going on. The Maui tournament is going on during the day. There's a ton of daytime basketball. There's going to be daytime basketball this whole week. There's going to be football, both college, and we're going to have the brand new NFL Black Friday game. Not the the best game going head to head. At the beginning of the year was going to look a little better with Aaron Rodgers. That injury happened, a long time ago. But there are just so many sports. You just turn it on and you got to figure out what do you want to watch, because there's so many options.
I don't know whether to acknowledge the amount of time you're already dedicating to it, but it's also hard to explain to everyone, like, hey, what'd you do today? And it's like, I just did everything you just said. Like, I'm gonna send that to them. It's like, this is what I did today. I sat around and I watched this. It sounds like I just did that, but a lot happened throughout all of it. A lot's happened over the past week. I'm excited to talk some basketball, both college and NBA. How about we start with the NFL? You mentioned the Thursday games and the Friday games and the Sunday games. A whole lot of spaced out stuff going on this week, but last week's results were bittersweet. I really feel like I had a good week in my picks, and then you come out of nowhere, Mr. Denver over here, and just comes up late with a swing pick of which we both picked the opposite and pull away a little bit. I felt good about my week. I felt good about that game going into it. I can't believe I was misled, and I can't believe how you have managed to turn the tables on Denver. I came into the year telling everyone, hey, big coach, this is the coach everyone else in the league wanted, and they got him, and the team wasn't that great, and they're just immediately going to be a lot better because of the coaching. Well, here they are, and I'm so out, and you're so in, and I'm just curious to see what you're going to do this week. I don't know. Let's just talk about, I guess, what else shocked you about your picks this past week?
I don't want to jinx anything, but I think I'm gonna have a little momentum all of a sudden. The past 2 weeks, I was just saying before, my favorite time of year. I think maybe the time change, it just flipped that switch, and I'm just much more locked in or something, because all of a sudden those little bit more long shot picks and just a little more gut feels. I don't know. Maybe the last week I think I made my picks a little bit quicker. I didn't do as much analysis and really deep diving into it. It was just a little more of, hey, like, just we're midway through the season now. These teams. Just what are you feeling when you see the names? Like, what's your immediate feel? And you just can't get tricked. You can't get tricked by the Vikings. They want to trick you, but you have to say no.
It wasn't a blowout. It was a winnable game. It wasn't. You didn't pick like a dominant team. I can't believe you managed to pull that one off again. And just to remind everyone, you picked them last week without even seeing the Monday night victory they had, of which I was like, all right, so they got one out of their system. Like, that's it. Like, they're not going to do 2 in a row. Taking them, didn't change it, doubled down.
It was more that Dobbs, he's working on magic. It was like last year with the Vikings. It's magic, and magic runs out at some point. And the Vikings actually have some good players, where Dobbs, I mean, he's doing some crazy things, but there's a reason that he's been on, 8 teams in 7 years. You don't go get passed up that many times. It's just he's in the right spot. He's for sure doing well, but I just didn't think that it was going to be able to last that long. And but I agree with you. It wasn't a blowout. It was right there. He got knocked up, or not knocked up. He got dinged up a little bit, but I didn't think he was going to be able to pull it off again. And now the Broncos, 4 wins in a row on the hot streak.
I don't know whether to get back on the bandwagon or to remain off it and say, no, I'm happy to not be part of this, even though I was very much – I was They give up 70 points in a game. How are you supposed to alter? Like, to oversee that is crazy. You imagine that we have a larger sample size now. We've had some games. Everyone's played close to 10 games at this point, give or take a bye or two. I think with some teams, and yet you look at a team like them who's essentially 5-5 and 5 losses, completely the worst losses ever, and then 5 of the more impressive victories now over the past couple weeks. Can't wait to hear your pick going forward on that one. How about we start with Thursday? It'll be Turkey Day. We'll have the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. Early start, 12:30 in the afternoon, East Coast. Aaron Jones injured. I believe that's not going to change. I don't know what to think of Detroit's 8-2 record when I saw Jared Goff have possibly the worst 3 interceptions I saw all yesterday. And yet they come back because the Bears are the Bears, and I don't know if they're going to turn around like Denver, but I believe for the time being, I have to say Detroit is a good football team, and the Packers are not. The Packers beat the Chargers this past week, and that is something you were all over again, and I just keep falling into the trap over there. But are you going to fall into the trap of Green Bay again? I'll take Detroit. Who you got?
Well, see, now it's not a trap. You fell into the trap, and so I'm going to be able to just serpentine around it. But I'm going to go with the Lions. Lions are at home. This is going to be the first time in a long time where Thanksgiving and it's the Packers versus the Lions, and the Lions are the easily the favorite. That's going to be pretty weird. Where I got to imagine there's a lot of families that have traditions, in Detroit about, all right, we're going to eat it this time, or maybe you're going to eat on purpose during the game because it's just, this is going to be terrible after the first quarter when Aaron Rodgers has already thrown 2 touchdowns on us. But I think they're going to be in the driver's seat. That Aaron Jones injury, he's not going to play, right?
I don't think so. The short week can't be helping anything. It's not like he's been super healthy most weeks anyways. And I'm not sure what the Packers are trying to do. I know they beat the Chargers last week, but had they lost that one, I don't know if they would have been like, oh, the season's over. I'm not. I do think Green Bay is still taking the season seriously at this point, or are we just seeing what we can find out of love? And if we win, so be it. But we're trying to essentially lose some games to some degree. I just don't know what sort of outcome they're hoping here. I do think of the Thanksgiving days, this will be the best game of them. So just a heads up, I think normally I'm not paying attention to this game. Everyone's kind of welcoming in. We're prepping some food. Lots still going on. I'm going to have to try to prioritize the fourth quarter of this one earlier in the day. All right, so we're both going Detroit on that one. Next game, 4:30 start. It'll be the Washington Commanders at the Dallas Cowboys. Washington lost to the Giants, and Howell ending the game on a pick 6, being his 3rd interception of the game, which is just a brutal way of a rookie just making rookie mistakes. I anticipate a lot of those happening against this Dallas Cowboys defense, who had no problems, 33-10 over the Carolina Panthers the past week. I'll take Dallas at home. I don't even think you need to tune in for this one. I can't imagine this game being close. I'll take Dallas. Who you got?
Give me Dallas. Dallas is really good against teams that aren't good, and the Commanders are not good. Howell is still on track to be the most sacked quarterback, and like you mentioned, 3 interceptions, that last one for a pick 6. I think that the Cowboys are going to come in. They're not going to mess around. They're going to lay the smackdown. This is my lock of the week.
Lock it in. All right, next game, San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. This will be also on Thursday at 8:20. This will be the night game. Niners coming off a victory against Tampa Bay. Ayuk had a huge game. It just felt like he was catching massive, just huge plays. Every time he caught the ball, it felt like a 30-yard touchdown. He only ended up with 1, but it just felt like a massive play every time he got it. Seattle had an interesting game. They lost to the Rams. Geno was out, and then Geno was back. Drew Lock in for a little bit in the middle there. They give up. They essentially give up the lead after having it with Geno in there. They lose Geno for a little bit. Geno comes back. Last second drive. They get all the way over there to the point that they're able to attempt a 55-yard kick for the win, and they miss the kick. And now I don't know what to think of Seattle. They're already an on-off team. I can't imagine them being a true competitor. If they want to be taken seriously, they're going to have to win this game. Because the San Francisco Niners are the real deal. I imagine they'll be the real deal this night, so I will take San Francisco on the road. Who you got?
I am also going to go with San Francisco. They had that little speed bump, but since the bye week, sure seems like they've gotten their act together. Everybody's healthy. So I am back on the Niners are good. Brock Purdy's good. And I heard right before the podcast, Geno, it's not a long-term injury, but it's definitely sore. So I think he will play, but I think he's going to be not at 100%, and he really needs to be at 100% to have a chance in this one. So yeah, give me the Niners.
Not only that, the Niners are going to get to him. So even if he starts this game, the chances of him finishing it are next to none. This line can't defend him anyways. He thinks they're going to do a better job against the Niners defense. Look, you're going to see Drew Lock this game. It's a shame. I think this could be a better game of the day, but I can't imagine this going very well for them. All right, next game, as Zach mentioned earlier, this will be the Black Friday game, the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. Miami getting a victory over the Las Vegas Raiders. Defense looking well. Tyreek Hill was injured for a second there, but that first touchdown that he caught where you just catch it, there's three guys around you, turn on the Jets, and just blow past everyone as if they're just a turbo button that no one else has. Really impressive win. I don't know, not really impressive with Tyreek. I wouldn't say the most impressive win of the Dolphins. They're still kind of an on-off team. They struggle a little bit with the Raiders. You're only winning 20-13. The Jets got completely destroyed by Buffalo. They have no offense. Defense didn't even look that good. They seemed way more interested in fighting the other team physically than actually competing against them. There's no way they're going to win today, this Friday, unless this is truly like a cursed Black Friday. I don't know if that's how this works, but I'll take Miami on the road. Who you got?
I'm also going to go with Miami. I think they are going to put up something like 50 points. I think the Jets are done. They are benching Zach Wilson. So they're saying this is over after I think everybody around has been saying that for over a month now. So I think this could get ugly in a hurry. I cannot imagine this being a fun game, especially this late in November in New Jersey.
We like the Friday game, though, right? It's interesting. I don't see a reason not to have it, and now that we do have it, I'm just disappointed that this is what they gave us. But we're pro Friday game next year from here on?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. I'm seeing it's going to be on Amazon Prime. So they've been doing the Thursday games for a while, so it's not like they're coming out of nowhere. You know who's going to be doing the announcing, and they did it way before the season. You can't flex a Friday game like this, just the way all the schedule lines up. And going into the year, this seems like would have been a fun one. AFC East teams going against each other. Aaron Rodgers versus Tua, two teams that you would have thought, Dolphins were going to be good. You would have thought that the Jets with their defense and with Aaron Rodgers were going to at least be in the mix. So that first injury, but I mean, I can't say no to little bonus football. Especially I like the timing of it, 3:00 Eastern. That way, if you're on the West Coast, it's right at lunchtime. But if you're on the East Coast, you can get some things done if you're doing it, and then you just ride right into maybe a little early happy hour right into nighttime. See what's going on with the Maui tournament, and yeah, just a nice fun evening.
All right, moving on to Sunday, regular old-fashioned football, 1:00 Sunday. New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons. Both teams on a bye last week, so not a whole lot of news. I'll take New Orleans, who's 5-5. They have a chance to make something of the season. These 5-5 teams, you're either in or you're out, and I guess they're in. I suppose they're slightly better than Atlanta. They have a slightly better defense. I have nothing to expect out of Atlanta other than they always go against me. So if you pick Atlanta, there's nothing new here. This is just the trend of the season. So who you got?
I am also going with the Saints. The Falcons have the players. I don't know if it's Arthur Smith or just exactly what it is, but I think this is going to just continue on his demise of, he's not going to be the coach for, I don't even know if it's not going to be for much longer, because it might be just, all right, just ride out the season because we're not going anywhere anyway. But Saints got some guys. I think this is going to be ugly, but you got to pick somebody, and I'm just going to go with the Saints because I don't even know who's going to be the quarterback for the Falcons at this point.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's been a problem. We're 10 games into the year, and they're still like, no. We'll see more. It's funny when they just openly admit of something like the Jets finally benching him. It's like, no, it's just not going to work out. We thought, like, you thought differently like 10 weeks ago. Like, it took you 10 weeks to come to the conclusion here. Or what are we doing? The whole Rodgers mid-December thing is such a joke too. There's nothing. It's over. There's not going to be a team for him to come back to at this point. It's next season, and even then, this whole Achilles recovery thing at his age, I just feel like they're nonchalantly acting like that's not going to be a problem at all. A lot of problems with all that. All right, speaking of some problems, next game, Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cincinnati Bengals. Cincinnati, it happened. It's Joe Burrow's out. He's not coming back. They're 5-5 after a horrendous start. It's hard. it's just a hard sport whether you're that dependent on a guy and you have a guy that every other team wishes they have and he's just not healthy. I don't like this Pittsburgh team. I don't like that they're 6-4. It bothers me that this is a successful team. I feel like the Patriots used to win games like this where they had no business in being every game. They just kept it tight, and then at the end they just irk one out. But I don't have any even with the backup quarterback in Cincinnati. I think their offense will be better than Pittsburgh, so I will take Cincinnati at home, even without Joe Burrow. It's just how bad I think the Pittsburgh offense is. It's just non-existent. Who you got?
I'm going the other way, but my argument is basically the same thing. Of Cincinnati lost Burrow. With Burrow at the beginning of the year, they struggled. So I'm thinking if you get basically that now, and somehow I don't get it at all. The Steelers just grind out games. This was finally one this week where they lost to the Browns, but it came on a last second field goal. So that easily you could have flipped the other way. So I think this is also going to be an ugly one because Kenny Pickett, it's almost like the Tommy DeVito thing. He just doesn't throw the ball. He's a quarterback, but it doesn't throw it down the field. So I don't think this is going to be on red zone very often. But yeah, I'm going with the Steelers, but I don't have a real good reason.
Too bad for Burrow. There's not enough good quarterbacks in the league to just like this sucks. There was one guy we actually got to watch every Sunday who kind of knew what he was doing. There's not a lot of those, and we just lost one. That just sucks. Huge loss. All right,
especially where he was struggling at the beginning of the year with his injury, and then it seemed like he had turned the corner, and it was fun, and was okay. The Cincinnati could make a run here, make things. This is going to be interesting.
And I thought we needed it. I thought we needed that because we have a lot of sloppy teams like Pittsburgh who are winning games, but it's not really fun to watch. That was fun to watch. Joe Burrow's fun to watch. Unfortunately, the next game will not be fun to watch. It will be the Carolina Panthers at the Tennessee Titans. 1-9 Panthers, 3-7 Tennessee. I guess Tennessee. I mean, flip a coin here. What do you actually? I should let you pick first. I would have just went the other way. I'll take Tennessee. Who you got?
I'm going Tennessee. Tennessee's got a couple of guys, throwing Will Levis out there. It hasn't seemed like the best, but I think the Panthers really have nothing, and then the Panthers actually might be tanking, so I'm going to go with the Titans at home.
All right, next game, Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Indianapolis Colts. I actually like what Tampa Bay has done the last couple of weeks. Baker, I think if he stayed in Cleveland, that Cleveland team would be thrilled to have him at this point. And I know the Deshaun price is such just an extortion at this point for the price tag they got and the results that they're getting out of him. I mean, he's still getting his money. Let's not forget all that. That being said, Tampa still has a whole bunch of weapons. When Godwin and Evans are healthy, I think those are two really good receivers. I want to jump on the Minshew, Jonathan Taylor bandwagon, but I just think Tampa feels like they're a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is. I guess both these teams are streaky, but I'm going with Tampa. It could go either way. I don't feel great about this, but who you got?
Give me the Colts at home. Little Minshew mania. Let's just get wild. Let's let it happen.
I hope he's healthy off the bye. I was a little hesitant on that because who knows with him? He might play and he might be out in a quarter. That's my fear. Next game, New England Patriots at the New York Giants. New England was on a bye last week. Tommy DeVito had 3 touchdowns and lit up the Washington Commanders. I don't know what are we supposed to do here. I think we should lose. But even the actual answer asking me do you think you're the better team than this team? I don't know. So part of me said I don't even need to factor in the tanking situation. I'm not even sure if we're good enough to win this game. So I'm going to take the Giants at home because I saw them score points last week and I rarely see us score points. And if Tommy DeVito is going to have a 3-touchdown game, I don't think we have a quarterback that's capable of doing that. So who you got?
Belichick off the bye, awfully good. I think we're throwing Mac Jones out there again, but I'm going to go with the Patriots because I think the Giants are really, really bad. I think we're just mostly bad. And I think that the Giants might be more willing to tank than we are.
Next game, Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. In theory, on paper, these are two very good teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars are 7-3, 6-4 Houston Texans, both coming off a win last week. Not over fantastic teams, but I suppose they got the job done. I don't like Jacksonville. I haven't liked them a whole lot. It killed me last week that I benched all the Jacksonville guys, and they actually had a good offensive week in fantasy. I don't like him. I like C.J. Moore. He's easier to root for. I like what they're doing with Tank. I imagine Noah Brown should hopefully be back and that they'll be at full strength with Nico Collins, and I just like Houston. I think they're on a bit of a upward trend, and I think they're a little bit more for real than Jacksonville. But this is a game where you have to win this one. Show me you're a little bit real. You should win this one if you are, and that might actually go both ways of this. So it's a big game for Jacksonville as well. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Jaguars. I think they can handle a team like the Texans. I don't think they're gonna make it to the Super Bowl or do any damage in the playoffs. But I think a game like this, I was down on C.J. Stroud last week, saying, "Hey, he's a rookie. He was able to get the win, but he did throw 3 interceptions." So I'm not gonna take full credit, but I'm gonna take half credit to say there's still gonna be some rookie issues that are gonna happen. So I think the Jaguars are gonna be able to take advantage of that. And like you said, the fantasy guys on Jacksonville finally stepped up, and I was a fan of that.
Next game, 7-3 Cleveland Browns at the hot 5-5 Denver Broncos. I'm taking Cleveland's defense. It just seems like the only thing you can really support in this matchup here. But good luck with the Denver. Are you doing it again? Are you gonna cook me 3 weeks in a row?
You better believe I'm doing it again.
You're doing it again?
Broncos
You're
country,
not doing it
let's
again.
Ride.
No way. You're doing
Let's
it again?
Ride at home. Get ready. Late afternoon game. Just when you let your guard down, boom, then they're going to be there. Who are the Browns even throwing out a quarterback this week?
I have no idea. It's someone who's got a lot of initials and a nickname already.
They got all the hyphens in it. Yeah, I mean, they could barely put up any points against the Steelers. Now they're going to go up to Mile High. Ooh, it's going to be tough. Big Thanksgiving dinner, and then trying to breathe at that altitude. All of a sudden, Russell Wilson. Ooh, looking pretty good.
Look, I think
he's got a little something. There's a little magic left. A little something in the tank.
Russ in that offense has been real cute, dancing around some bad defenses. But this Cleveland one's, I think, a real deal one. Like good teams are going to struggle against this team. Even an average team over the last couple of weeks is going to struggle against Cleveland. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe I'm wrong. I like that we're doing this. I'm just so angry that I'm not on your side with it. Like I wish I was on the Denver side, being the fun part of being like, no, it's not real. Like I'm anti the bandwagon. You got it going. This will be fun going into this week. I'm going to care about this game now, purely based on that. So that's hopefully intriguing for some of the listeners as well. All right, next game, Los Angeles Rams at the Arizona Cardinals. I guess their quarterbacks are back. Neither of them looked fantastic. I think Kyler's looked a little bit better than Stafford. I think the Rams have a little bit better of a team. It's hard to trust Arizona based on the small sample size of Kyler Murray, but I think he's looked a little bit more effective than what I've seen of the Rams recently. So I'm going to go with Arizona at home. I don't really love what the Rams are doing, and maybe they get it all back on track this week against Arizona, and that's just what they need. But based on what I've just seen the last couple of weeks, I think Kyler is going to be able to dance around this team a lot better than whatever offense the Rams are going to put together. Who you got?
See, you were giving me a lot of praise last week for all the traps that I avoided. This is one of my rules. You don't trust Kyler Murray. He's really fun out there. He runs around. It looks like a bunch of fun, but it usually doesn't lead to a win. But I picked him. And I fell in my own trap. I will not do it a second time in a row, just like some of the other teams that just don't get talked into it. You see it, and immediately you're like, oh, no, they're pretty good. I know these guys. No. Going with the Rams. I'm walking away from Arizona. I see the spikes. I can see them underneath the leaves. I'm not falling in again. Not a second week in a row.
Does it help you at all that the Rams really should have lost this past week? Like if they'd lost this past week, it doesn't change anything. If the Rams lost to Seattle, they kick the kick, it actually goes in. Geno leads a crazy comeback. Doesn't change anything. Still going against Kyle. I've watched the Rams offense. It wasn't good. They don't have a good quarterback either. Kyler's going to have a wild card game where he's going to do 3 interceptions and 3 amazing touchdowns that you'll see for highlights the rest of the year. But I think this will be the game he does it. I don't like what the Rams are going to do. I just don't think they're going to be able to put up 15, 20 points or whatever they are going to need. All right, moving on. Next game, Kansas City Chiefs 7-2 at the 5-6 Las Vegas Raiders. Chiefs are playing Monday Night Football. Big game tonight against Philly. That's at Philly tonight. Or no, it's at Kansas City tonight. Philly's at Kansas City tonight. Monday Night Football. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I mean, what's the real reason other than new coach syndrome for the Raiders? I don't really think the outcome tonight even matters. I think even if they do lose or win to Philly, that this is a better team. I think Kansas City's just a better team than Vegas. Am I wrong though? Who you got?
Same. Give me the Chiefs. Chiefs are better.
All right, next game, Buffalo Bills at the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly playing Monday night against the Chiefs tonight. Buffalo getting a win over the Jets. Looked like they got their groove back, putting up some points. I call fake news. I don't think they're that good of a team. Philly's a better team. Lock in Philly. Lock it in. This is the real difference right here. Like Buffalo can beat up on that team every day in the Jets, but this is the real deal with someone else has an actual defense, an actual offense. Let's see if they can keep up. If you want to be, same thing with everyone else. If you want to be considered part of the real competitive group, you have to win this week because I haven't seen it in the last couple of weeks. It's starting to look like I'm giving you a whole lot of credit for previous successes in previous seasons, which honestly weren't even that successful now. There are a whole lot of what-if situations, but a lot of them fall into the hands of not really getting the job done. I don't think they're going to get the job this done against Philly. I'll take them at home. Who you got?
I'm gonna go with the Eagles. I really took a hard look at the Bills. I hear what you're saying, but it seems like the Bills, their issue is not that they're not good enough; it's that they play to their level of competition. So they've gotten beaten by some of the dregs of the league. But I think when they play the Eagles, they're going to be ready for it, and they're going to elevate their game. But I still think that the Eagles are top of the league. Doesn't matter what happens tonight. Even if they're coming in 8-2 at home, I think that they're more for real and they'll take care of business.
All right, next game, Baltimore Ravens at the Los Angeles Chargers. Can't pick the Chargers. We just can't. I don't know how many times I can explain it to you. They lost to the Packers this past week. I don't have a whole lot of respect for the Packers. Baltimore took care of business against Cincinnati. It was really kind of a bummer. It looked like it was going to be a good game until Burrow went down. But nonetheless, Baltimore took care of business. I think they're a very professional team, unlike the Chargers, who just find ways to lose game. Trusted the professionals. I will stick with Baltimore. Who you got?
Give me the Ravens. Are there going to be any Chargers fans at the Chargers game? It is going to be a ton of Baltimore fans. They're all going to travel out there. It's cold in the East. There's going to be a bunch of them. And like you said, this is one of the rules. You don't pick the Chargers against a good team. You just don't do it. You're going to feel silly on Monday. So that's an easy one.
All right, last game, Monday night. Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, you just don't have any belief in Joshua Dobbs. I'm kind of in still. I think it was a terrible loss past week. I still think the circumstances that he's in is still less than ideal. So losing a game to Denver, well, I thought they were a little bit better in that, and I thought he was a little bit better in that. He's only been there like 20 days. Like it's still very new, all right? There's still hope that they can get a lot better of all this. The Bears have been hoping to get a lot better. I think that this guy in 3 weeks has more hope than the Bears do, so I'm going to pick him at home. I'm going to fall for the Josh Dobbs thing one more time, but are you really going to roll with the Bears? I mean, Fields looked a little bit better. He actually had a couple good tosses last week, but not enough for me to think that they're better than Minnesota. Who you got?
No, this isn't a trap. You just pick the Vikings. Vikings are an average team. Dobbs, he can handle the Bears. Even with Fields being back, the Bears got a lot more problems. So this is not you just don't want to pick the Vikings against a team that is good. But the Bears are bad. Vikings will win. I got the Vikings.
All right, those are our picks for Week 12. There was plenty fantasy heroes and zeros this past week. Zach, who were some of them?
Lot of wide receivers on the zeros list. If you had one of these guys, you were probably in for a rough one. We had Cooper Kupp again. Got dinged up a little bit, but did return. Dropped one right at the goal line. Jamar Chase, unfortunately, he is back in this column after pretty successful once Burrow got back on track. But I don't know about this the rest of the year. Stephon Diggs, Garrett Wilson, and Marquise Brown. For running backs, had Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs. So then on the fantasy hero side, just pretty much one of each. Brandon Ayuk was the one wide receiver. Saquon Barkley, the one running back. George Kittle, the one tight end. And then weirdly, I think last week we had a couple of defenses. Bills and Cowboys were fantasy heroes this week. They might have helped you get to victory. So that's your fantasy zeros and fantasy heroes for this week.
I actually had a very successful week despite the disastrous quarterback train just continues for me every week. And the worst thing about it is if I had just stuck with a lot of my decisions rather than quickly overcorrecting them week by week, I would have been all right. Like Deshaun Watson had 12 points the week I started him. The next week, I think he had 40. Will Levis, the week I didn't start him, he had 45. The next week I did, he had like 12. It's just I can't get it right. I had Goff this past week. who I think finished with nothing impressive. And really, anytime he did have an impressive stat, he just threw another interception and just deduct. It's never ending. It's never ending. Then I had Howell in the wild league that I have where it's -6 for a pick six. So it's not just an interception loss. It is -6 points for a pick six to end the game, in which I thought he might actually have had a chance of scoring a touchdown for the win. Ends up flipping the other way entirely and taking away points. I don't know where to look for at this point. I'm telling you right now, I think every year we make fun of people for drafting quarterbacks early. This is the first year ever where I am openly saying that was a mistake. I haven't recovered from it. I don't know what to do about it. But next year, I'm drafting a quarterback early. I'm not going to fall for this again. Like, what else are you doing? I mean, you have had Lamar for half the year.
I was gonna say, don't you have Lamar on at least one of your teams, and you decided that you were scared of Thursday night and you avoided him, and you decided to start Stafford instead?
If you looked at the last 5 weeks, it wasn't Stafford. It was Goff. I started Goff.
It's Goff. Okay.
It was fine, and it was also a situation where I have 3 other Detroit Lions. So I have Gibbs, I have Laporta, and I have had the Detroit defense on and off some weeks as well. So it's a little bit of like, well, if I'm hoping for the other 2 to score some fantasy points, I'm kind of hoping the quarterback also scores some fantasy points. So Lamar has not been perfect the last 5 games, despite looking very good in person. His fantasy numbers have certainly been disappointing. And the Thursday shortcut game, anything happens on Thursday, so I was already like halfway committed to Detroit. I didn't feel like that much of a mistake, but boy was it. Always trust your guy. Lamar's one of those guys. You just can't find a way to bench him. I got too cute, and you're right. That's the one league that I'm paying for.
Well,
but
that's what you're saying, that next year you're going to draft a quarterback high. So maybe it was just your exposure was just Lamar in one league, and then the other guys were more down the line. But it's like Lamar was definitely someone you had to draft a little bit higher. So I'm just thinking, well, if that's your strategy for next year, are you not going to find yourself in the same boat?
I'm trading for quarterbacks all year. That's what I'm doing all off season. I'm gonna get one this off season. I'm gonna keep one.
Okay.
Gonna find the one good one.
Could you let everybody know who you're going to start this week so the rest of us can avoid that quarterback?
No, and every time you say something like that, I just like to announce that I'm picking Duke to win it all this year. It's already typed in my bracket. I can't even fill out the bracket, but it's already filled in.
It's just a blank bracket.
It's just a blank bracket with Duke right in the middle. All right, and
Okay.
it says championship of 2024 March Madness, whatever. And it's the best part about it is that I'm going to win the bet this year off of this too. Like you aren't going to have the guts to pick them. Believe it or not, I am, and you're not.
That would be quite the twist of fate right there.
So this is who I think I'm starting a quarterback every week from now on. Is that comment, because it is not going well.
Okay.
What do we got for some college football highlights? Get me out of this. I'm sinking over here.
Well, not exactly. Well, I guess yeah. We'll start with the one highlight, and then I'll hit you with a low light. Georgia dominated Tennessee at Tennessee. I had mentioned probably a month ago or so, saying, hey, Georgia, they haven't really played anybody yet. There are a couple maybe non-cupcakes, not elite teams that they didn't exactly destroy. Well, now they're playing legit teams, and they are destroying those teams. They went undefeated last year, obviously undefeated this year. So they are on, I think it's a record win streak. Definitely for them. I don't know if it's at a larger level or not quite yet. They're trying to kind of downplay that as they're looking, trying to focus on SEC championship and obviously the college football playoff after that. So they are still number one, very much in the driver's seat. Bad news at number 4, Florida State. Their quarterback Jordan Travis confirmed today season-ending lower leg injury, and very similar to the NFL, quarterback is kind of the most important position, and to get this far and really be thinking, hey, we're going to make the football playoffs and we have a real shot at the national championship, to lose your quarterback. I mean, that margin of error just gets much, much smaller. Coming up this week, we got a big one. There are a lot of games on Friday during the day. If you're looking to kind of mix in some college with that Friday NFL game, but then Saturday, the biggest game of the week. Biggest game of the week probably any year, but even more so this year. Ohio State at Michigan, number 2 versus number 3. So I don't think a loss means you're out of the college football playoffs, but I think a win just might cement you as being in, even if you were to lose in the Big Ten championship following that. So that is a big game, and that is a noon kickoff.
You gonna make a pick? Ohio State or Michigan?
I will go Michigan.
See, that's not fun. I wanted to go Michigan. All right, fine.
Well, you can still go Michigan.
I guess we're two Michigan boys. Yeah, I don't know. I love Marvin Harrison too. I think Michigan. It's weird that I think the suspension's giving them a little extra spice that I don't know if they had before. And now it's us against the world even more.
Adversity. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like,
it's ridiculous.
Themselves.
Yeah,
They've, like,
it feels
hit
real though.
In the head with a hammer and been like, "Oh, why am I bleeding?
Yeah,
who could have ever done this?"
It's weird. You know, you got to find some momentum from somewhere, and at this point in the year, you should be recovered and healthy and practiced and have enough chemistry at the point that you're more or less the team that you're going to be as a finished product as you're ever going to be. So like I just think that extra little spice is gonna have something, and I think this is a little bit more of their year than Ohio State's year. But I could be totally wrong. I'm the wrong person to ask for any of this. I'm into the drama of it all, and I want to get behind it a little bit. So I'll have my eye out on that. That'll be interesting. We do have college basketball has officially started. We did have some interesting games over this past week. I suppose the most intriguing of them was the Michigan State-Duke game, which Duke decided to make some shots and Michigan decided to make no shots. And it was a very ugly game that was ended in not my favorable fashion of Michigan winning. It was Duke being successful. I don't know what else to say other than we're not going to beat anyone, let alone Duke, if you just don't make shots. Like, you're going to lose to James Madison if you continue to not make shots. Of course, we start that game, we hit the first three, and you got to open your mouth and send me the text of sure, you'll make threes today, of which I think they ended up going 2 for 22 the rest of the game from three. And it was right, that text aged well. I feel real good about that. So enjoy your win. I thought you played slightly better, but it's a completely different game if we make any threes at all. We're at least in the game, and you weren't exactly killing on offense either. So I'm not entirely disheartened by Michigan's loss, but it's not ideal. I mean, how did you feel? It wasn't like you beat a really great foe either.
It was one of the ugliest basketball games that I've ever seen, and I watch a lot of basketball, both Duke games, college games, NBA games, but I think some of it was you at the beginning of the year switched from Syracuse to Michigan State, and Michigan State, coming in ranked, had that JMU speed bump, but was like, okay, well, you got surprised, but you're not gonna get surprised again. You're going against Duke. It's Champions Classic. You know this one's coming up. There's no more surprises, and it was like, okay, well, you're gonna be watching this one. I had mentioned on the pod last week, hey, these are the games to watch. This is This you're going to see some good college basketball. And especially in the first half, it was so gross. Duke had, I think it was 9 turnovers in the first half of the first half. So that almost lines up to a turnover every minute. That is not even hyperbole. At one point, it was just every time down. And it was all different sorts of turnovers. And I very much agree with you that you guys made the first 3. And then it wasn't even... Duke was playing this suffocating defense, and you had to take these end of the shot clock threes where yep, those counts as threes, but you weren't open. These were wide open threes. You were passing the ball around, and it was just we're not making it. We were able to eventually take advantage of that where when you don't turn it over, every other possession and you actually take shots, it makes it a lot easier. We had Ryan Young, who was just very much outmatched against Arizona, where he is just – if you don't know who he is basically what every old guy at the courts looks like, where it's a ton of pump fakes and just all below the rim. But he was able to kind of work that on some of your younger guys and just guys that aren't 7 feet tall. So always happy to get the win, but I think it was more embarrassed than anything else, where it's just all off season and everything talking about it. It's no, this is the game you're going to want to watch. And you're just really? This? It's 12-13 and there's 6 minutes to go in the half. How is this? But
it was a good film.
The next game, the Kentucky-Kansas game was much more high scoring, much more was happening there.
We look like a bunch of amateurs. Everything I always hate about college football and college basketball happened in that game. Because if I go back and watch the Michigan State games, especially the first couple here where they just haven't been shooting well, I'm not sure if it's entirely the offense that needs to fix. You just need to make some shots. Like, you have to take those shots, and you have to actually make them. I don't think it was the wrong guy shooting. I didn't think it was too quick in the shot clock. I didn't think it was suffocating defense. It's just not making shots. And I'm starting to see a little bit of enough of a sample size right now where I'm starting to think, I don't know if we're going to fix that. Like, maybe we're just not a shooting team. Because at some point, someone other than our main guy, Tyson's got to come up a little bit better. And I think defenses are starting to become a little predictable on, like, all right, so we're going to guard the one guard and just assume anyone else who shoots is going to miss. Because that's really what's happening right now. So I'm a little worried.
I mentioned it on the last pod how last year you guys were third in the entire country in 3-point percentage, but now I'm beginning to think, how much was Joey Hauser? You know, Celtic Sam Hauser's brother. How much was he just skewing those stats? And he was just, keeping you guys afloat, because it's just wide open and just absolutely ice cold. And it wasn't just a half. It wasn't just this one game. It's been a real trend this season for you guys. So you still have some time to figure it out. But I believe it's next week, or definitely in the next 2 weeks. You guys are playing Arizona
Thursday.
It's this Thursday. So coming up quick. You're definitely going to want to make threes, because they got some 7-footers down low, and they're not fun to play against. So best luck against Arizona.
I think we're just going to be like, we're going to make shots that game, and then we're all going to fall in love and believe in us again, and then we're never going to make another shot again. But we're going to have that one game against Arizona who was really good, that we shot really well, and we got to win. That's the Michigan State way, and that's what I think is going to happen. So that's what I got. Got a couple good games on right now, or at least tonight, or whenever this podcast will be airing. We got Purdue and Gonzaga right now, and UConn and Texas tonight as well. So those are some big matchups. Any other matchups going on this week other than those ones?
It's a little tough to forecast right now because there's a lot of tournaments. So depending on who wins, so even that UConn Texas game, Louisville out of nowhere almost upset Texas yesterday. They only lost by 1 point. They were in the mix. That almost happened. It was going to be UConn Louisville for the championship of I don't remember which tournament that is. Like I said, there are just a ton of tournaments going on right now. Just every day, just take a peek. The main one being the Maui tournament. You mentioned Purdue is just about to knock off Gonzaga right now, and that is number 2 versus 11, and that was a quarterfinal game. Also, ranked teams in that tournament are Marquette, Kansas, Tennessee, and the non-ranked is Syracuse, UCLA, and Chaminade. So, kind of that one is kind of your best case of whether you win or lose. Even the consolation one is going to be some good matchups. So, I would just check out Maui tournament, and what's cool or not cool, depending on how it lines up for you, is there was games starting at 2:30 today, and there will be a game at 11:30 p.m. tonight. So depending on where you're living and what your work schedule is, it might be awesome or it might be terrible. So yeah, definitely be checking out the Maui tournament. That's going to be the crown jewel of all of the sports going on this weekend.
All right, enough talk about some college. Let's talk about the actual sport that I've been seeing every single game, watching quad boxes on quad boxes of as much NBA content as I can get. I got a couple games to look forward to this week. I figured we might as well wrap up some of the craziness, the madness of last night of the Boston Celtics having a really good fought victory with a second enemy of the game. I mean, I know we are Celtics fans. I know we were biased. I know we were raised on Tommy Heinsohn thinking the refs were just out to get us. But last night, the refs were out to get us. Like, I don't know what other way to say other than, like, I couldn't believe the amount of charges and borderline charges, too, of which I think 50-50. Sometimes they go our way. Sometimes they go the other way. It just didn't seem to ever go our way. They seemed like they were very defiant in letting us know that they weren't going to let us get away with kind of the off arms or any of the charges. It just seemed ridiculous. But it comes down to some defense. We essentially play defense for an entire minute to shut them down and give up no points and lock it down and win. I don't know what to say the flaws of the Celtics are entirely, but we're just not that dominant of a team. But we can go on runs and put together difficult stretches for other teams that I don't think every other team can do. And it's still exciting to watch, but I don't think we're ever going to be the team that wins by 40 every single game. and that's okay. That's fine. I still enjoy the quality of ball we play. Our depth, I don't think, is nearly as big of a deal as everyone was thinking. I thought Pritchard's been playing well. I thought Hauser's been playing well. What do we got? Kez, I think, came back yesterday, or however you say that. That's another big that I think will be helpful in the rotation. So I'm happy with the Celtics right now. Like, were you concerned at all that we kind of struggled against a Memphis team missing everybody? Like
Everyone.
like no name blank, just missing. Didn't play, suspended. Who knows what?
I think it's when and. We haven't been as bad about this year, but I think this is a game that last year we definitely lose, where we come in and we look at the lineup and we don't recognize anybody on it and go, cool, we're just going to launch some threes and our talent will just we'll take care of these guys. These guys aren't at our level. And all of a sudden you lost the game, which we probably should have lost that game. We miss down the stretch. We're up by, we were up by one or two, I think we were up by one, and luckily Derek White comes out of nowhere to gets an offensive rebound with like 12, I don't know, or I think it was probably like 17 seconds left. So passes out to Tatum. There's a 2-second difference between the shot clock. He probably should just hold on to it, but Drew Holiday streaking to the hoop, so he passes it to him, and Holiday rises up to dunk it, but he misses the dunk. And then Aldama has a wide open three that was just going to have to be one of those, we're going to have to talk about this on the podcast, so just complete meltdown. Where it's like, how was this even a possibility? How was this close? But luckily he missed, and then there was just a mad dash scramble, and the ball was all loose. But, I'd rather an ugly win than a pretty loss every time. But I agree with what you're saying on the, we always say, yeah, the refs are out to get us, but I think they might have been. Tatum had 4 fouls last night. All of them were offensive fouls. Just how? How? Who else does that happen to? LeBron's not getting 4 fouls that are all offensive fouls. Luka's not getting that. So I didn't like that, but I was very impressed with the Grizzlies and not having anyone of any of their stars, not even a ton of like their starters, but said, "Hey, we're taking this seriously." Their fans were ramped up for it. It was almost like it was a little bit of their like, it was like, is this their in-season tournament game? No one told us, because they came to play and they were rocking.
Giannis is the example I would have. The 4 offensive fouls, that doesn't even happen to him, and it should. Like, he's not. Like, I don't think Tatum's just recklessly driving to the basket every single time. I don't think he constantly uses his offhand to wave people out of the way. It's just conflicting information where they felt like they were ticky-tack offensive fouls, where they were like very letter of the law and not giving the contact to the offensive player at all. I'm not sure. Maybe he's been a little chatty. Maybe our team just chirping at the refs a little too much. It just, part of me thinks that we traded away Marcus Smart and we're still having more problems with the refs, but I feel like he was never doing us any favors. And now he's gone and we're still having certain conflicts like this. Maybe Tatum and Jalen are just a little too whiny, but and Porzingis isn't any better at it. But it's fine. We won. We beat a team we should beat, and that's all we should be doing. Going forward this week, not a whole lot of great Celtics games. I wrote down Wednesday, there's the 76ers at the Timberwolves. I'm kind of excited to see just a bunch of big men on the floor. All right, you're going to have Embiid, you're going to have Gobert, you're going to have Towns, and Naz Reid floating around from Minnesota. That'll be 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Minnesota's kind of taken over the whole league. Everyone's very intrigued and, I guess, excited to see them take the leap right now. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I haven't seen a whole lot of it. And until we get to the playoffs, I'm not cementing Minnesota as for sure a contender. But I like what they're doing, and I'm kind of curious to see how they do against Philly. Philly's been hot with Maxey and all that, and I think that'll be a good game Wednesday. What were some of the games you were looking forward to this week?
Also on Wednesday, I think this is one of the matchups that people have been talking about since the flurry of trades in the Eastern Conference at the very end of the offseason. But we have the first Bucks at Celtics matchup. And if you've somehow forgotten, the Bucks traded for Damian Lillard, and then immediately afterwards, the Celtics traded for their just traded Drew Holiday. So it will be the Bucks coming to Boston. So I think that'll be good for Drew. He could play against his old teammates, but he'll be in the friendly confines of the TD Garden. So that is also one that's going on Wednesday that I am definitely interested in, as those two have been kind of pegged, before the start of the season as the two top teams. The Sixers have definitely put a claim on that, but we'll see as it's still early in the season. But I still think if you were to ask somebody, they still think the expectation is Celtics Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, last games I wrote down. Friday, I've got Nuggets at Rockets. I'm just intrigued by the Rockets. I think that they play slightly a little bit harder than Denver does at moments, and that has proven to kind of irk them as they're a little weak right now without Murray. I'm just curious at the Rockets, man. They're poking the bear. They're knocking on the door a little bit. I would be curious to see if the Nuggets just completely slam the door shut. That'll be Friday. It'll be a tournament day. The other game I wrote down was the Bulls at the Raptors. I don't know how else to tell you the Chicago season other than they know drama. It's a hot and cold. It's a team that starts off 1-20 down and then wins a game 105-101 or something, and a ridiculous fourth quarter comeback again, of which LaVine just catches fire. And at moment's notice, this guy could just catch fire, score 20 points in a row. It was announced last week that it sounded like they were open to trading him and that both sides were essentially going to work together to try to find him a destination. I'm putting my foot down. I'm probably the only person in the country that says it, that I don't think Chicago should blow up this team. I still think there's some magic there. I think it just needs a little bit more help in gelling this rotation, and there are moments where it's very good. They just need to get rid of the moments that it's not. And I did see a trade out there for LaVine that I was like, that makes the Bulls infinitely better. And maybe he's not the guy they should trade. It seems like that he's the miracle worker for these comebacks, and that if he doesn't do this, he's really not much of an asset on the court. So I understand kind of giving up on this whole experiment because it's just the window's closed. Lonzo got hurt, and it's not ideal. But I don't think what they're getting in return is much better than where they're at right now. I think they could still kind of rebuild what they have. It's not a move I would make. I just wouldn't do it. But what do you think? Are you interested in LaVine? Like, would you want him on your team? Do you think they could still make a deal out of this with someone?
I'm not anti-Zach LaVine. I don't think the Celtics need him. But when you look at the Bulls, it's just like they have the pieces. It's just, I don't know, like, why don't the pieces fit well? It's like, okay, they got a shooting guard. They got Caruso who's willing to play defense. It's not like they got it's not like the Clippers where it's, hey, well, they got all guys that kind of do the the same thing. It's like you got Vooch. It's like, all right, you got a big man. You got a big man that can shoot. It's just it's not working for some reason. And I mean, season's early, but they're out of the playoffs right now. So it's like, do you see that turning around? For sure, yeah. They had the big comeback, but I just don't know how long you keep trotting this team out before you say, hey, why are we paying these guys this money if we could be starting with young guys and just we could, someone will take LaVine, someone will take DeRozan, someone will take all of these players. I just don't know why they're not working together.
Yeah, I don't think any other team should really be thrilled to have any of them either, because I don't think it's accumulation of the players. I don't think it's a coaching either, because I like I said, there's still moments where this looks really good. I just can't believe how bad it looks, and I just, if you trade LaVine and it turns into like a Lauri Markkanen situation, where again the Bulls move on for someone and he looks immediately so much better, there has to be something looked at within this organization that's just off, and I don't know what it is, because I can't tell you from the outside looking in what it is. But if that happens again, LaVine, I think he's gotten better, but he's been injured so much that I don't know if he gets the respect he should. And truthfully, I just don't think he's really earned the respect, because I haven't seen him have a big playoff game. Like, what is the playoff moment that comes to mind with Zach LaVine? Is there even one? So I understand him being frustrated and wanting to be better, and the money that he's getting isn't exactly deserved or earned, but I'm not sure what you paid exactly to begin with. So shout out to whoever ends up with him or not, but I think they should hold on to him. I think this Bulls team still has some magic left in them. I think let everything else just settle out across the East over there. There's going to be some injuries. Some of these younger teams are either going to put it together or they're not. I think teams like Orlando are really falling shorter than they should. Teams like Detroit are a complete mess. I just don't think the Bulls are that sloppy of a team, despite not looking very successful. All right, any other games to look forward to for the week, NBA-wise?
Yes, I have two more. On Friday, in season tournament time, Kings at Timberwolves. Like you mentioned, Timberwolves kind of rising towards the top. They're definitely interesting, as well as the Kings kind of building off of last year's success. So those are two top four teams in the West. And then I believe this game is on Saturday. Sixers Thunder, where Sixers are at the just towards the top, just behind the Celtics in the East, and the Thunder similar, just up at the top of the West. Chet, huge game winner, 3-pointer. Figure the game was over, and man, just a very tough turnaround where he was shooting it before he was even looking at the hoop. But he had Shea behind him. You could see it in the replay, and Chet is all fired up. You can see Shea looking at him just like, whew, that's a bad man right there. So I think those will be two. I guess one's a West Coast matchup, and the other one just two of the better teams. And maybe on the Thunder side, just a little more surprising that they're this high at the top.
Everyone's in on the Thunder. They really can't make a move that I'll be disappointed on. At some point, are they going to go all in on it, or is it just constantly building? Like, are they ever going to package this for something? They haven't done it, and I don't feel like they necessarily have to. And Zach LaVine's not the name. I'm saying that's who they should go after. But at some point, player X is going to be unhappy at whatever situation they're at, and they certainly have enough to offer just about anyone. I wonder if they just have a little too much on the roster. Like, there's guys like rookie like Kasem. I don't even know how you're supposed to bench him, and I don't know who he's supposed to play over. And there's a lot of guys in that situation where they're also young that I don't know how you say this guy's more deserving than another. And they've all had really good moments of being very good and successful on this team that it's just a hard rotation to crack. And I just wonder if packaging everyone for one player is the solution to figuring out this rotation rather than kind of always leaving someone out. But I don't know. Is this really the way rebuilding works, though? You have a whole bunch of guys, and some days you play and some days you don't.
I don't think it's going to work in the long term, but I think with them being so young, I think they still have time to feel things out. Trade deadline's not for a long time. You got certain guys that are playing well, certain guys that aren't really playing. Giddey's been losing minutes kind of steadily, but I don't think you should just give up on him because it's not even December yet. See how it goes for a little bit. Yep, right now you're 2 in the West, but you're 3 games between being there and being a play-in game. So just very quickly, you drop a couple of games, all of a sudden you're right mid-level, and you still need to figure things out. I think at some point, yes, they will have to kind of, I guess, consolidate power, and whether that's through trading for more of a starter, superstar, star, whatever you want to call it, or if it will be getting rid of some of the younger guys for, I guess, maybe even more future draft picks, just to say, all right, we got too many guys, we need less of them. But I don't think you should be making that decision. Even I said December, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. We're still very early on.
At some point, Shea should start saying, though, I'd like to play with adults. Like, it just, the LeBron doesn't play with young guys kind of thing. Like, I'm not saying they're anywhere near that, but at some point, don't you think he should be a little concerned that the new guys are constantly bringing in are very good young talent, but are talent that has just never been on the court before? And it's not really an issue now, but when you want to take everything seriously, when you want to be a championship contender, those are going to be harder decisions to make, and that they just seem so set up that eventually they'll build out. And I'm just worried they're going to build, and Shea's going to be here during the entire building process, and there really isn't going to be a peak of it, and that they're going to kind of waste some of these years that are going by, because he's ready to roll. This is an excellent team.
He's ready to go.
And Chet has been as good of a second year or first year rookie or whatever you want to designate him as you're going to get. And if you get more guys like that, which are never a sure thing, I think you're all right. But I just some of these accumulated picks aren't going to be top picks anymore. They're going to be average picks, and I don't know how they break the rotation for these guys going forward. All right. Any other NBA news?
Yeah.
What else?
We're going to talk about the fight.
Oh, you want which fight? What happened? There was a.
What do you mean? What do you mean which fight?
Oh,
the one guy in the NBA that is constantly doing this kind of shenanigans. One Draymond Green couldn't even make the Thanksgiving. Already putting the dude in a headlock, thinking it's a UFC match. His team is terrible. Steph's the only one that can do anything. Clay looks like he is on his last legs. Wiggins is not doing anything. What have they lost? 6 games in a row? Lost 6 games in a row. But I guess they won the fight. I don't know how Draymond's only getting suspended for 5 games. At what point? At what point does it have to be more? He is not getting the message. He didn't get suspended last year for punching a teammate. He does this sort of thing every year, multiple times a year. and it clearly isn't getting to him. I saw there was a stat. He's been fined, I think it was $2.3 million over his career. $2.3 million. Because he just does this sort of shenanigans. Clay and Jaden McDaniels are the one that get into it. And then McDaniels is like an actual tough guy. So Draymond, goes over and, decides, I'm going to pick on Rudy Gobert. And, we'll go with that. But it was so weird, though. What was it? It was no one even scored yet. Was it first 2 minutes?
They got kind of tangled up. There's a little jersey pulling back and forth, and then once one acknowledged the other's pulling the jersey, the other one pulled the other, and they just didn't let go. And then a jersey ripped, and it's like, all right, well now it's kind of like a arm has swung quickly because it's a jerk reaction from a ripped jersey, and then there's just a lot of shoving and a lot of chatting going on, and the game's just started. Like I was kind of amazed that Draymond was even awake. Like this to be this jazzed up and this fired up and to have that immediate of a response that you're just 911 burning the world one by one. I'm taking everybody hostage within an opening 20 seconds of a game. I was more alarmed by that he just came into the game like this. Like the previous stuff I have been inexcusable. I can't defend any of them. I thought the playoff ones where you faced a team, 4, 5, 6 times in a couple years in a row and a couple games of the past week, it could be taken a little bit more personally. But to be such a short fuse, like it's a team and a non-real threatening team, like a new threat team, a team completely threatening based on this year and this year alone. There's no previous history between anyone of any of this. I think it's concerning. Now you mentioned he should be suspended longer and more, and I thought 5 games was fine. I understand all of that, and I'd like to say that it's really 6 games because he was ejected from that game, and that should count. And that's probably why there really wasn't a suspension handed out for anyone else, right? It was just Draymond because he's the only one with the history of it all. So when you say that the punishment,
he's the only one that put a guy in a headlock.
It's still an instigated situation between the other two. I look, he shouldn't do any of this. There's not a situation that really defends him of being like, no. If he hadn't done that, Clay could have got injured because Rudy was going to do blank. Like that's not a scenario that's happening. I'm with you that I'm a little tired of it, and that I do think that he is one of a few bad apples in the league that really changed the way the games are officiated for all of us. I mean, we mentioned the Celtics having a whole bunch of offensive fouls. There's also been a whole lot of situations that I just think are unnecessarily physical. And I don't know, just Draymond doesn't do anyone any favors for the league. Like we have guys getting ejected left and right, and it's really based on the rules of the dangers that he's bringing. And if we get rid of those dangers, I think we can have a looser leash, because most of the guys don't need it to be that tight. Like the only reason the NBA is throwing out guys left and right is because they don't want this situation to happen. They're trying to keep the tempers down for it all, when we're trying to keep the tempers high so that's an actual competitive game that people care about. I don't know what the solution is. I just don't think that suspending him or fining him is going to change anything, nor do I think that they should suspend him or fine him any more than they already did. Like it's fine. It's moving on. Does Rudy really look like he was traumatized from it all? Like I just thought he got punked a little bit.
That's not the point. You can't go on that. It's like there's the same thing with last year. You tried to make the argument like, oh well, does it really matter? What Jordan Poole, like he's probably fine. Like
what's the solution?
He's probably
then?
fine. They were bad last year, and then they traded him out of town.
What's the solution then? What would you like to do with this? All right,
you gotta fine him, or you gotta do something
more,
that says, hey,
more
we're
suspension?
serious about this.
More suspension?
Yeah.
You want to take more games? How many games do you want to take away?
I don't know how many it takes, but clearly these little fines here and there and these little suspensions, it's not getting across because he continues to do these sort of shenanigans. Did you see after the game, Rudy Gobert came out and said, I think called him a clown. I was like, all right, yeah, that's whatever. But said, yeah, when I saw Steph wasn't playing, I kind of had an inkling that he might do this. And you mentioned, with this instigating, like, no one's even scored. We're like less than 2 minutes into the game. It made me think more of a hockey game. Every once in a while, they'll have these hockey games where there had been some sort of situation that hadn't been resolved the game before. And so you'll put all the goons out on the first line. Everybody just knows. And as soon as the puck's dropped, just the fights just break out. And then you get it out of your system. It was like, did I miss something from the game before? But the internet ran the numbers. The last 7 times Draymond's been suspended, or in 7 of the last 11 of Draymond's ejections have been when Steph hasn't been playing. So kind of a pattern. I don't know, over 50%. It's not 100%, but it seems like there might be something there that if Steph's not playing, Draymond's looking for an early night.
Well, I don't think if Steph's not playing, it also falls a little bit more on Draymond that he's going to be a little bit crazier because they're going to need some magic out of him, and that's really the only way he's able to generate it. Like, I understand the flaw of pointing at it, that this is his deal. This is the only way he could win games. It's the frustration I have.
That's not basketball.
With Patrick Beverley, who does a lot of things that are just not basketball, and that he's rewarded for them constantly. It's a bigger problem than just that. We shouldn't. I understand you don't want to be tricked by everyone, but I don't think suspending him is going to change anything. I don't think finding him anymore is going to change anything. He's just like, you just have to hope that once this guy retires, that we just don't have any more like it. Like, we don't want anyone to be idolizing him, if anything. And I'm saying this all as a new Michigan State defender, and I have a very complicated relationship with this. On the one hand, he has a lot of championships, and he's played with a lot of good teams and had very good records and set a whole bunch of records. And defensively, he's been very important for this team. And playmaking wise, he's generated the run and gun three thing that they had really going during the peak of it. It had a lot to do with him starting the break and getting it out started and setting up guys. And he just isn't quite that player anymore. But it seems like the more we take away his basketball abilities with age, the more the anger comes out of him just not having it and trying to show everyone that he still does. Like, it's just an old man having a temper tantrum at this point. Like, that's what it is. So it's gonna go away. He's gonna be out of the league soon. Eventually, the Warriors are gonna trade him, and once that happens, I mean, do you really think other franchises are gonna deal and tolerate this stuff as nearly as much? Like, if it's not them, who's it gonna be? And this next stage of his life isn't gonna be all right with this. Like, so it's coming to an end, is what I'm saying. So, like, I don't think you need to really do any crazy adjustments. You could just be upset by it. It happened. I thought they punished it appropriately, and I don't know what else I'm supposed to say about it. So that's where we're at.
The Warriors might also be bad. They've lost 6 in a row, and they are just hanging on to a play-in spot right now. Now, I think it could easily flip the same way. I think it could flip for OKC, and they could both end up closer to each other. But for right now, that is not working.
Well, you guys got to play. Curry's got to play. You're going to be without Draymond for a couple weeks, or at least a week, I assume, whatever 5 games ends up being. And
it was only last week, or I mean, within Steph Curry was the only guy on the Warriors to score over 20 points. Not average over 20 points, just to score over 20 points. It was, I think, I'm trying to remember the number, if it was like 60-something people in the league or something. And it meant that each team probably averaged at least 2.5 people on their team had scored over 20. And the Warriors didn't have any, which was just a crazy stat.
Well, let's not forget the reality of why the Warriors are in the situation they're in. They didn't really blow anything up, but they did rebuild a little bit, and their draft picks they just missed on. I mean, let's not forget these guys had the second pick. They took James Wiseman. He's not even on the roster anymore, and they weren't even really to capitalize anything in return for him. Like, that's just a huge loss when you have put yourself in a situation where, you know, Curry's out, Clay's out for years at a time, seasons at a time. And then you try to put it all together with some of these new pieces that just haven't panned out. And then there's years where
isn't Wiseman how they eventually ended up with Wiggins?
No.
It wasn't Wiggins to wasn't like a jump there? That was it? That's different strand?
I don't think so. I don't think they
that would
really
be my
got
only pushback if that was the case, if it was through the Wiseman deal that they were able to get Wiggins, because Wiggins has not been playing well to start this year. But in that finals against the Celtics, he was rebounding like crazy, and he was a huge part of that.
Yeah, but he's also not going to be a guy that's going to take on more of the workload than he should. Like, the reason it worked was that he's kind of been a number 1 or number 2 option everywhere he'd been prior to this, and that he was the 3rd or 4th option on this was perfect. But when Clay's out, Draymond's out, Curry's out, he climbs higher up the ladder, and you're put in the situation where he wasn't very successful for that. I'm not worried about this team. I still think that they have a chance. I think that there's just too much talent here and too much of a core here that if the main guys are healthy, I'm not even worried about Chris Paul. I think a lot of people are blaming him for it all. And the thing is, he's just not a center. He's what this team needs.
He's like a reverse center.
Yeah, he's just I think there are moments where they need him desperately, and that he helps his offense get through some really bad hiccups when they're just not in the momentum and rolling with everything. But they need big guys is really the problem of all that, you know. And Draymond is also an undersized guy. He's not like a true big, then that's not aging well, and we're seeing that. This is what's happening. So I don't think they need to worry about Chris Paul or any of the core. It just those young guys, if they're not on some games, and I like Gary Payton, like he needs to be healthy, he needs to be playing out there, but they just need a little bit more trustworthy of a big. Like I think like a Jakob Poeltl would be fine on this team. They just need somebody who's willing to go bang some bodies, and Valanciunas, I don't even know what somebody else like that. And there's I'm sure there's someone else. You know, Time Lord would do just fine on this. Unfortunately, he's already injured and going to be missing a whole bunch of time. But that's enough on the Golden State Warriors. Like I said, they're not even that great of a team. I think they've won and had plenty of success in the past, and I think we're more just possibly seeing an end of an era here. Any other NBA news you want to get to before we discuss the final talk of the Beer Mile?
I am ready for the final Beer Mile preview, if that is going to be happening between now and the next podcast.
It'll be done. Well, it'll be attempted. We assume it'll be successful, which you're only going to hear about it next week if it is. And if you don't, well, that just means I got to try it again, and I'm sure that'll be a story. But we were assuming the attempt will go well. We're assuming the weather will allow us a decent way to record it properly and advertise it. I have a location picked out. The map's already picked out. The beer's already picked up. It's happening. It's is there any final questions you'd like to know of the situation here? I mean, I feel like I've told everyone week in and week out. Maybe start with why I'm doing this.
Well, you lost the March Madness bet, so that's why that's why you have to do it. I guess my questions for you are: so you've been training, but your training has consisted mostly of chugging beers, which sounds important, but it's been a lot more jump rope than running. Do you think that will be an issue once you get out into the real elements?
Like, I haven't done any running. Zero running has been included with this training at all. No cardio, nothing. Nothing like remotely that, other than some brisk dog walks, no jogging, maybe some walks on the treadmill, some jump rope in here and there. It's really, we're going to find out if I can even run a mile, let alone how long it's going to take me. And that's going to be something I learned and we learned together. You know, we were going to find that out. And then the beer thing, just the 4 beers is a lot, and especially if I'm trying to do this in a reasonable mile time, which, 4 beers in 10 minutes it's a lot of beer. And that's certainly not something I'm doing on the regular, let alone trying to do some physical activity in between. So I just felt like I needed to train more on that end than the other end. If I had taken and tackled on the running thing seriously, I assure you I would have been injured by week 2, and then that would have just put me farther back than anything. So I'm almost anticipating a potential injury throughout all of this, of which I get to fully retire from running and probably fully retire from beer altogether. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to preserve myself while maintaining an idea that I could still be athletic for 15 minutes at most. I mean, what's the time I should be aiming for?
That's what I was gonna say. Is there a time limit? Is there you're going too slow and you've timed out and it doesn't count? Is there a number there?
Look, I'd like to think confidently, I want to say I could do it under 15 minutes. I'd say not confidently. I'd like to say anything over 20 minutes is really like, maybe you should try it again, But I have no comparison. There's nothing I could compare this to that it's like, were you really that close? Like, it's 20 minutes closer to 15 than I think. If I just chugged that last beer a little bit faster, it could have been done. Or is my mile time just that bad too? Like, I don't know either. Like, It's gonna be a knowledge of a learning experience for everyone, and I'm not looking forward to it. It's
gonna be cold.
It's gonna be cold. It's gonna be really challenging, and it's gonna be hard. It's gonna suck. It's not gonna be good. Like, I think everyone's excited to see this, and they're gonna realize this is a disgusting challenge that's really stupid hard,
disgusting.
And it's not flattering to watch or do. And you were going to experience some of the challenges by watching it. So I encourage you to watch it, but I also just warn you that it will not be it like well produced, excellently choreographed, and it's gonna be disgusting. It's gonna be gross. It's gonna be a lot of burps.
Yeah, don't want a lot of close-ups for this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to also save the location that we're doing it, where I'm arranging the cameras, the wider ones, where I don't want anyone to know where it was either. Like, it's like, hey, you guys did that over there. You're not supposed to do that over there. So like I'm trying to arrange the cameras where you kind of get it's just gonna be an open field. You're not gonna have any idea what it is. So the privacy thing will be addressed, and hopefully we're able to just pull this off without any other contenders showing up. I suppose. Let's just say it that way.
Is that a concern? Have you invited other contenders?
No, I'm just saying if we might just get company wherever we're at. You know, people are out. They walk their dogs the same places I walk mine. There isn't this isn't like a private field that we're doing this on. This is public property. So it's a possibility. There's some other dog that starts chasing me. Maybe he wants to get a free lap in, and I chase him.
Maybe that'll help you. Maybe that'll improve your time.
I need to drift a little bit. Yes, I need someone to pace me. That helped me a lot in high school when I was actually running. What's the worst outcome possible?
How would you like my attitude to be during the race? Would you like it to be taunting? Would you like to be encouraging? Would you prefer me to be more just quiet? Or like, am I gonna be mic'd up? Am I gonna be just doing comments, more for the fans or for the videos? Like, what is my role on game day here?
All right, so I'm thinking there's gonna be a wide shot camera from one of the corners, so you can kind of see me running around the field. I'm more likely be holding some form of a camera, which is gonna be the worst one of them all, and you'll get more of a my point of view, a camera kind of thing. And then wherever the beers are being chugged, you are going to be holding a camera, and you're free to turn around and pan if you want, but it really just mostly want the close-ups. You're going to be framing me up as I'm chugging the beers, and you're free to chat however you'd like to chat. I imagine being supportive will be more enjoyable for me, but I don't know if going against me is really going to change anything either. Like, there's nothing more punishing than what I'm actually doing. Like, you're not going to say something that's going to hurt more than what I'm doing. So I suppose bring on your best shot, but I also wouldn't be discouraged if you were even remotely supportive of like, hey, man, nice lap. That was a quick chug. Or I'm not even sure how you cheer on this either. So you might have to come up with some ideas for that as well. But it's already going to be punishing. There's nothing you can do that's going to make it worse. So I do what you feel is what I'm answering.
What if I raced you? Would that make it worse if I beat you?
I think that would be a win for me, actually.
If you forced me to do it?
Yeah, because not only would I beat you at it, but you would also have to do it.
Yeah, I thought about this when it was going to happen more towards the end of the summer, and I was really going to play up the just coming off of surgery and like hobbling in, and then trying to like pull off something heroic, but. Now we're much later in the season, and I think, like you said, it's gonna be punishing enough. I couldn't come up with a good. Well, if I do win, like, how are you punished more? And we already got too many punishments out there. We don't need to make this any more. This is already complicated enough. You're drinking beer and you're running. We're set with the complicatedness.
Yeah, next year, do you want to just be punished with the drinking or just the running? Because that might be the more punishing thing. Is you just have to finish 4 beers in 10 minutes, and then. That's it. Like, there is no physical challenge. Like, or do you want to have to run a mile in under 8 minutes or something just faster?
I don't know. We'll have to start thinking about that soon. Now the college basketball season has started, but that's still a few months away. But this is coming up, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see how it goes.
Well, finally getting it all out of the way here. We definitely got to get some of the other bets rallied up and just kind of done, because we're going to have a new one coming up this year, and I already have our top punishment. I'm ready to add to the list the vending machine challenge. I'm ready. You want to add to the board? It's going on the wheel.
I don't have any new ideas just quite yet.
All right, the vending machine. So the vending machine, you got to eat everything in the vending machine within, I think they say 24 hours, but I think it's even a work day, so maybe even 12 hours is like a stretch, maybe 8 hours.
It's a lot.
It's
a lot of food.
Not easy. It's not. It's none of it is. But I'm happy to kind of get it all done. It'll be fun to be outside, and I guess we'll have a reason to have a YouTube channel again for these really stupid, silly punishments. And I hope everyone actually gets as much of a kick out as we do. I mean, what do people watch this? I mean, do we even know why we do this?
It's because there needs to be a punishment.
Yeah, but the documentation of it all.
There needs to be winners and there needs to be losers, and I think that's the main thing. And yeah, it's gonna be cold. When I did it, it was peak summertime, so I don't know how the elements are gonna impact you, but I'm interested to see. And like I said, I'm excited. I'm excited to to see this challenge and all, because I know you've been working on training for it for a while. So should be in better shape than I was.
The beers are going to be so much colder than they ever need to be. I've been trying to let them like warm up like a touch because they're just easier to chug. You don't want to be chugging ice cold beer. You're going to get brain freeze, and it's just it's much harder to do. But with the elements, I mean, what do I do? I'm going to have it in the cooler with like a little heater. Like, how am I even going to get this room temperature in 20-degree weather?
Keep them in your pockets. That's terrible. Then they'll be all carbonated. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
You want to shake them up a little bit.
A little cooler with hand warmers.
You want to shake them up a little bit. That's fine. I don't mind you letting all the gas and the foam out, all right? Because that's half the battle in all this is just dealing with all the gas. I don't know.
They're going to be toast.
Until next week.
They're going to be cold. It's all going to be set.
Until next week, we'll be back. Make sure you subscribe. Little Column A, Little Column B. Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you get your Spotify stuff and podcasts. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
And we'll be back with all the updates and stories of the Beer Mile next week. It's going to happen successfully. I'm not predicting a time, but I'm aiming for 15 minutes. It's going to be a complete mistake when it ends up being under 20, but that's the goal. We'll see.
Little column A, little column B.